here. So I'm going to send a request to record. I've never recorded my show before. And so thank you, sir. And now I'm recording. I've never requested a record before because it wasn't that big of a deal to me. The shows are on PSB somewhere. But I have updated on the website of my video page the way I want it. I want to start putting these shows as a video on the video page. And also I've got a friend of mine who's putting stuff out on podcasts for me. So that way we can get this show in more places. But welcome to Friday Live with Mr. Constitution and Mrs. Constitution. She's going nuts because she has dishes that didn't get. So she went in there and started doing dishes because she couldn't stand the fact that there was dirty dishes in the sink.
No,
What? Welcome to the program, honey.
I dropped something.
You dropped something?
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Yeah, Link over there, our dog, standing guard to make sure you were safe. He's hilarious, man. He takes good care of her.
Sorry.
All right.
I'm here now.
As far as I can go. So if you want to squeeze in here.
I did. Okay.
Camera's as far out as it can go.
I think I need a different chair.
Glad you're here.
I am too. The dishes, yeah. I'm a little.
So
Okay.
So folks, here's how blessed I am, folks. I am not a fan of yard work. I am not a fan of dishes. She loves to do both of them.
The dishes, I find it comforting. So like doing yard work is rewarding.
So we got a lawnmower. I finally got that thing put together and ready to roar the other day, man. And she's like, my new toy. I'm like, have fun.
It's a new toy.
Yeah, and it's just a push mower, but we got like
lots of weeds.
Yeah.
Weeds that are 3 feet tall, so I usually have to use a trimmer, and then after
we went on vacation, and the weeds had their greatest growth spurt of the year. We come back, the dogs went out to pee, and they vanished.
They disappeared in all those weeds. We just see something up and jump into the little fish.
So, but anyway, yeah, our brown dog, the one that you kind of saw kind of the edge of a moment ago, his name is Link.
Yeah.
Our kids named him. They're into Legend of Zelda. They named him after the main character Link.
Yeah.
And the cat was Zelda. The cat ran away.
Yeah.
But eventually. But Link, he follows me around. He's my shadow. But he also keeps an eye on her at the same time. It's hilarious. So what he'll do is he'll be near me, but then he'll have his back to me facing wherever she's at. Or if she's like in the bedroom, he'll be in the doorway with his back to her, but like he's guard dogging, the doorway.
He's a good dog.
Yeah. And then the white dog, Petey,
that's a different story.
He's my shadow times 10. Wherever I am, he's with me, and that's just the way it is.
So if I lose Petey, if I know where Doug's at, he's going to be there too, so I'm good.
So Ricky Roush says, 4 years old, my dad started paying me to do the yard work. So my dad and I, we had a deal. Because the summer is when nobody wanted to mow. So during the other months, we would just take turn. 1 week I'd mow, and my dad did not believe in grass catchers. Well, raking the lawn is good for the lawn. So lawnmower, no grass catcher, throwing the grass all over the place. And then during the winter months, whoever mowed raked. And we just alternated week by week. But during the summer, whoever mowed, the other person raked. And I hated to rake. I'd rather mow. So my 9th grade year, and I started long distance running, and I challenged him to a 5-mile running race.
Oh, okay.
Now, the guy was in the United States Marine Corps. He's got his chest. I'm a Marine. Nobody's going to outrun me, no little kid, So I map out a 5-mile course kind of in the hills. It's kind of a dirt kind of course, something that you might see like for cross-country teams. And we got up like 6 a.m., started our race at 6:30, and we ran our race. And I blew him out of the water. The bet was the loser had to rake all summer. And so I get to the house first. He's nowhere behind me. I run up to the garage. I grab the rake. I walk down the bottom of the driveway. I'm going to present the rake as he shows up. Still waiting. Still waiting. I decide to go tell my mom. I go in the house, wake her up. She's like, what? Oh, that stupid race. She comes down. She's waiting at the bottom of the driveway with me. I'm holding the rake with a big smile on my face. Still no Jerry. Mom's starting to get concerned. And I remember seeing him, my last time I saw him on one dirt path, I thought I saw him kind of stumble. And I mentioned that to my mom now because she loves him. She's the wife. The worst possible scenario is not going through her head. He's laying there bleeding somewhere or something like that. And so she goes to get in the car to go looking for him. And right about then, there he is at the top of the street, getting ready to descend that final block. He's running. I mean, I could walk faster than he's running, but he's running. I present him in the rake, and he says, I don't know what happened. My legs turned to rubber. My mom says, well, you're getting old. Ninth grade. So was that 14? I was 14 years old. So that means he was roughly mid-30s, 35, 36. He's in his 30s, and she's saying, you're getting old.
Wow.
Now I look back, I'm like, wow. Yeah, and then what you just said.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was my start of my running career. After beating him, I ran a walkathon. I got to a walkathon 20 minutes late because my mom got me there late because she was my ride. Same summer, I decided to run. I caught up to everybody. Then I caught up to the runners. I wound up being the sixth person to come in. So I wanted to keep playing baseball. I had played baseball for years and years and years and years. Loved play baseball. Second base, shortstop, catcher. Didn't have a great arm, but I had a good glove. Nothing got by me. I was a defensive wizard. I had friends comparing me to Ryan Sandberg later when I played softball. Defensively, always sound. Couldn't throw my way out of a paper bag, but my defense was sound. And okay hitter. And so I saw the competition in high school. Yeah, I'd be on JV forever, and I'd be at the bottom of JV the way I was looking, even though I thought I was pretty good at baseball. So my mom, after watching the running, this was after ninth grade, before 10th grade, when I had this race with my dad and this walkathon, ran it. So she bumped into the cross country coach at the store, got to talking to him. I joined cross country. I ran cross country for 3 years in high school, led her 2 years. Ran a couple marathons, loved to run. So there's the story. All right, now getting back to your lawnmower. Virginia also has a weed whacker. We have 3 weed whackers. One that's a gas weed whacker, one that is a corded weed whacker, one that has a battery. She likes the corded one better, but the gas one's good for like down on the road. We have 80 acres. So when someone was talking about taking care of 2 acres, so we have 80, but no, we're not weed whacking the whole 80.
No.
We have what would you say? Maybe an acre to 2 acres around the house that we take care of.
And that's enough for us right now.
And she loves to weed whack. She loves to do the lawnmower. I hate that stuff. I'm a tractor guy. So like the meadow,
you can make that
the
dent.
big area, I get on the tractor, I knock that stuff down.
Yep.
I keep that stuff looking good. I use the tractor to, level things. I made a pad for her building. I'm building a building, stuff like that. That's my thing.
You told him about my building? Well, it's not really mine. It's our building.
Well, yeah, but 8x8 shed.
Yeah,
and
cool.
She's all excited.
I'm going to paint it red.
She's going to paint it red.
Yeah.
8x8 is bigger than you thought, huh? Got a lot of stuff in there. But anyway, so there's a lot of weed whacking. There's a lot of wood splitting, a lot of tractor work here where we live. And then every once in a while, we get a chance to take a break from all that, and we do things like spend time with you right here on Fridays. So,
okay, what's the topic for the day?
So what's the topic? Well, the top 2 topics or top topic is actually a surprise because I didn't know this, so I sat down and this needs to be talked about.
Okay, what is it?
So this is breaking news. Just learned it. Tulsi Gabbard our intelligence director,
Okay. I heard about
resigning from the
that.
Trump's cabinet.
Why? What's
Daily
the
Signal is where I've got my two stories on her.
okay? What's the reason behind it?
So let's go through the article. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has announced she will resign for President Donald Trump's cabinet effective June 30th. So she's still in office, but the end of next month, she's gone.
Oh.
She posted her resignation letter on X, explaining that the reason for her resignation is to care for her husband, who is fighting an extremely rare form of bone cancer.
Oh, that's horrible, Dyke. Oh.
Let's see, bone cancer. I'm looking at her letter right now, see if I can see the
That's really
type it
sad.
is. I don't think she mentions the kind of. Let's see.
It's devastating. Yeah.
Well, anyway, the reason why I'm curious about the type of bone cancer is I have a friend of mine, and I can't remember the name of it. I would know it if I saw it, and he has a bone cancer also, and it's like in the marrow, and then
Right.
lesions show up on the bones. It's all over
Right.
his ribs and his
Yeah.
back, and
Yeah.
and it weakens the structure of the bone. In the case of my friend,
Right.
and his back, he had how he found out about it. He worked at a warehouse, and
Mm-hmm.
suddenly he's got one of his vertebrae cracks, just collapses. It was from the weakening of the bone because of this cancer.
Right.
And he's been, and then the cancer was advancing, and it's been in remission now. What did he say? Like 10 years?
10 years.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had lunch with him a few weeks ago. Another relationship that I'm trying to maintain here. This is probably one of my best friends since the seventh grade. Everybody calls him Nacho. Sorry, Nacho, if you're watching, I'm talking about you, or maybe you're like, hey, I'm a star. I don't know. But
Okay.
but anyway, and so I understand through my friend how serious this can be, bone cancer. And Tulsi Gabbard is an interesting sort. She was a Democrat.
Okay.
She ran for president.
What?
Yeah, at one point.
Oh.
And then the light turned on for her. And I think it was meeting Trump, getting to know Trump. I think that was a part of it. It may have been other things. I don't know the exact reason, but suddenly she wound up on in Trump's cabinet. She wound up working with him. I remember one time watching a video about her talking about the Second Amendment.
Okay.
And she admitted she was looking at it all wrong.
Okay.
And she went from being this person pushing for gun control to someone who was a deep defender of the Second Amendment. She saw the underbelly. She got a peek into the deep state, whatever it was. And so I'm sad to see her go because some of my favorite conservatives, some of my favorite constitutionalists are people who used to be on the other side because they know what the other side thinks because they used to be that. Like David Horowitz, he grew up as a communist. The dude, he passed away last year. Met him once, and he understood the opposition. Breitbart at one time was, a leftist. So these are some of my favorite people because they've seen the other side. And so it's unfortunate that we're losing Tulsi Gabbard. But I get it. Her husband, with what he's battling.
Yeah.
And it gets nasty, man. Any type of cancer does. I get it. In her letter, she added that she is deeply grateful for the trust that President Trump placed in her and for the opportunity to lead the Office of Director of National Intelligence for the last year and a half. The intelligence chief believes she made significant progress over her tenure, which includes advancing unprecedented transparency and restoring integrity in the intelligence community.
That's a good
And during her tenure as Director of National Intelligence, Gabbard initiated a restructuring of the Office of the Director of National Intelligence called ODNI 2.0, with which she sought the right to right size the intelligence community under the belief that the office had become bloated. And I get it, man. After that CIA whistleblower testimony before the Senate committee, I get it. Plus, also a lot of stuff that they're trying to uncover now. We've known about all along, but it's interesting because she's been kind of spearheading a lot of getting this stuff out there. She's launched initiatives aimed at eliminating the politicization and weaponization within the intelligence community. She dismissed, reassigned, and revoked security clearances from individuals in the intelligence community she believed were responsible for politicizing intelligence. She also released critical information on the intelligence community's role in creating the Russia collusion narrative, which led up to all of the junk that went on around the 2016 election of Trump. Nevertheless, Gabbard claims there is still important work to be done and that she is fully committed to ensuring a smooth and thorough transition in the coming weeks. So she earned her cabinet position after a political conversion. Once again, she was a Democratic presidential hopeful in 2020, but she became a supporter of Trump over the course of the 2024 election cycle. During the 2024 campaign, she became one of Trump's closest advisors on how to combat former President Kamala Harris because of Gabbard's previous success debating Harris in 2020. Gabbard's departure comes at a critical juncture for the Trump administration. She has been seen as one of the voices for foreign policy restraint in the administration. She has led intelligence gathering efforts over the course of the United States war with Iran, and as the war in the Middle East persists, the Trump administration is also considering its next moves with respect to Cuba. And understand, she's exposed a lot. One of the things that she exposed was the information around the plot to impeach Trump. According to Gabbard, based on what she described as deep state actors, they collaborated with then House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff and former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi to advance what she called a false narrative surrounding the whistleblower complaint. And this is, I think, a large part of the reason why we've seen the whistleblower there now from the CIA. This is all coming to a head. I want the truth to come out. We'll see what happens. Gabbard has accused Schiff and Pelosi of withholding transcripts of closed-door congressional testimony from former Community Inspector General Michael Atkinson. Records, she says, would have undercut claims of Trump-Russia collusion dating back to 2017. She said those transcripts were kept from the House Judiciary Committee just a couple months ago when they were released following a forced vote led by the House Intelligence Committee Chairman Rich Crawford. The classified documents, Gabbard said, show that Atkinson departed from standard Inspector General investigative procedures and relied on what she characterized as politicized and manufactured narratives when handling the whistleblower complaint tied to Trump's July 2019 phone call with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. Now, according to the records, Atkinson's preliminary inquiry involved interviews with only 4 individuals: the whistleblower, a friend of the whistleblower who assisted in authoring the January 2017 intelligence community assessment on Russia and was an associate of former FBI agent Peter Strzok, and 2 character references who lacked firsthand knowledge of the Trump-Zelensky call. They further state that the whistleblower acknowledged having no direct firsthand knowledge. It was all a bunch of junk. It was all hearsay. Well, it was made up say. Is what it was. The records show there was no formal, no complete investigation. This was all a weaponization. This was all a politicized attack, as we've seen all along. It was made up. It was manufactured. It was a production. And Gabbard has argued that Schiff and Pelosi then used secondhand allegations to drive media coverage. You know, the media, they're happy to be an accomplice. Lay the groundwork for Trump's impeachment by the House in December 2019. The politicization of the whistleblower process by a former CIA employee who was working hand in glove with Democrats in Congress of the deep state playbook and how to weaponize the intelligence community. Exposing these tactics, showing how they undermine the fabric of our republic, then, according to Gabbard, furthers the critical cause of transparency and accountability and will help prevent future abuse of power. This was Gabbard. This is a former Democrat who saw the light. And I was excited to see her as a part of the administration, but because of, and I'm glad that she explained that it was because of her husband's cancer, because the media, well, they would have come up with some baloney. Maybe they still will.
You never know.
You have any thoughts about Tulsi Gabbard and anything about her or her leaving?
She's going to be missed, but she knows her priority is her husband.
Right.
And that takes precedence among anything else. So, yeah.
She's saying if I got sick, you wouldn't continue the show. You'd just quit the show and help me out.
Yeah. That's what you're supposed to do as a wife if you love your husband.
Yeah. I'm so blessed. I thought that she did a good job. In the beginning, when
I wasn't sure.
Well, yeah, because Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat.
Right.
And when someone has a track record like that, it's hard to see the change until you see it. I believe people change. People grow. I believe it's possible. I believe the worst mamma jamma out there can see the light. But when you see it, you kind of handle it with kids' gloves. You're careful because you don't know. It's like when Trump first emerged on the scene as a political character. I didn't know enough about. I knew he was a businessman. I knew that my dad has kind of a fan of him. Felt that someday that man would be president. He even said so back in '93. But until I was able to analyze and assess his activities as president, I wasn't sure. Oh, it took me a few weeks. By the 60-day mark of his first presidency, I was convinced he was pretty awesome. But anyway, so in the chat room, prayers for Tulsi and her husband from Dreamwalking. I70Q. She was awesome in my book. Panorific. Sad to see Tulsi go. All the best to her and her hubby struggles. Get him on a med bed pronto.
Yeah.
Let's see.
It's sad.
War Hamster's in the house, and he has a link. Let's see what it's an X of Adam Schiff. My thoughts go out to Tulsi Gabbard and her family. This is from Adam Schiff, the dirtbag. Traitor, treasonous, whatever. My thoughts go out to Tulsi Gabbard and her family and her husband battles a serious health problem. I hope and pray that he makes a speedy and full recovery. While the circumstances around her departure are deserving of our sympathy, let's be clear, Tulsi Gabbard's only positive contribution to our nation's national security is her resignation. What a piece of garbage. She politicized intelligence. Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. What a jerk, huh? But it's Adam Schiff. He's a California Democrat.
Hey, at least you know that he's telling the truth. He's not hiding behind it.
That's funny.
He's being honest.
That's funny you bring that up because and War Hamster and I have actually talked about
this. For what it is. He's actually being himself.
Right. Well,
so that's a good thing.
War Hamster and I have talked about this. Sometimes sometimes I appreciate the Democrats more than I do these establishment knucklehead Republicans because at least with the Democrats, you know what you got. They're honest.
That's true.
You know what you're dealing with.
Yeah, it's true.
When they come out and they like that, and they're a dirtbag.
Yeah.
You know you're dealing with a dirtbag, and they've told you they're a dirtbag.
Mm-hmm. So,
but when it comes to some of these dirtbag Republicans, and I'm not talking about the bag of Republicans, the ones that are supporting Trump and or try to adhere to the Constitution or are very conservative. I'm not talking about those guys. I'm talking about the Mitch McConnells of the world, stuff like that. And they claim to be your friend, but you don't know what they're doing behind the curtain.
That's true.
Sometimes that's worse than the enemy you could. What would they say? That the devil you can see is better than the devil that you don't know, or the devil you know versus the devil you don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but with Tulsi Gabbard, like I said, she impressed me because I mean she was lefty. She's
That's
originally
sad.
from she represented Hawaii, and Hawaii, um, aside from maybe Massachusetts and California, it's probably the most lefty state in the union. Maybe even more so than California and Massachusetts. Well, I'd add Portland to that, but really, or Oregon to that. I mean, but Portland is what's super left. The rest of Oregon's not as bad. But I live in Southern Oregon, and I love it here. But Tulsi is tippy top in my book. Says walking on. Um, and that's good to hear. So War Hamster in the chat room, and here's the thing about War Hamster is he's got a little bit of time on his hands, so you are welcome. If you want to join us anytime, you're welcome to join us. Now, um, you don't have to. I'm not saying you have to, but the invitation's out there if you want to join us, talk about Tulsi or anything else I talk about. War Hamster and I do a lot together online. Not as much lately, but I think we're getting back into the swing of things. His Rumble channel, War Hamster Rumble channel, he and I are going through Madison's notes that Madison took during the Constitutional Convention in 1787, and I tell you, it's good info. So it's the exact same link as you would for the Republic, War Hamster. Remember, you know how you can join War for the Republic? Same link, same password, everything's the same. So hopefully, so in the chat room, just let me know if it doesn't work, and I'll send it to you again. But you should have it. All right. Now that all said, this was unexpected to talk about.
Yeah.
But I wanted to open up with that. Um, Tulsi Gabbard, I think, was one of the good ones. I'm sad to see her go. I don't think that means she's out of politics forever, just for now. But well, we'll see. We'll see how she does.
Yeah. Well, it depends how her husband does, though, too. Right now, her concern is her husband. Number one concern is her husband. So she's doing the right thing.
Right.
So, you know, pray that everything goes well and then her husband recovers. But who knows what the Lord has in store? We just don't know. So,
Who knows what the Lord has in store?
yeah.
And I'm glad you put it that way because we forget of the importance of the foundation of this country. That we have this Christian foundation, and the founding fathers were all Christians.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll get somebody in the chat room, I guarantee you, say, "Well, they weren't all Christians," and they'll say something along the line of, deists and all that jazz. So let me repeat this in a way that you understand. They were all Christians. Period. All of them. Thomas Jefferson wound up holding Bible studies in the White House
Mm-hmm.
while
I've
he was
seen that.
president. The largest church service in the country was at
Yeah.
the Capitol where Congress met on Sundays, and he attended all of the services. But he was not a fan of organized religion. He didn't like what some of these religions had done with God's word,
Yeah.
and so for that they called him a deist because he even though he was a believer, he operated in a manner that was outside the orthodoxy. Ben Franklin, he if he was an atheist or a deist, he wasn't a very good one. He referenced the scripture an awful lot in his writings and what he had to say. He was raised in a Christian household. Then, as he got more into science and politics and inventions and things like that, he kind of moved away from the faith of his childhood. As he got older, he returned to it. And in fact, he was the one that recommended that they pray before each session of the Constitutional Convention. And he wrote a book about 13 virtues, and they're really, in line with Christian virtues. And so Teresa Cree, maybe it's Teresa Aker. says Starship launch Starbase TX T 60 minutes. Starbase Texas, I guess. I got a chance to get a rocket launch
Launch.
in Orlando just a few weeks ago. It was pretty cool. But anyway, so the founding fathers, they issued warnings that if we don't stick to this foundation, if we don't have a godly foundation, we're not moral, then we're done. Benjamin Franklin, and there's a quote in the chat room. I'll read that real quick from Sons of Liberty. The rights of man. Wait, I'm sorry. Here is my creed. I believe in one God, the creator of the universe, that he governs it by his providence, that he ought to be worshipped. And then Sons of Liberty put in another quote but this one by John F. Kennedy. The rights of man come not from the generosity of the state, but from the hand of God. Right. Benjamin Franklin, let me give you another quote. Only virtuous people are capable of freedom. If we're not virtuous, we're not a good moral people, we're not capable of freedom.
Well, look what's happening now. Look at the world now, what it is now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then people tend to wonder what's happening. Well, slowly and slowly, as the example you give us of the little frog boiling in a little pot, people slowly are drawn are pulled away from doing the right thing because everybody feels it's not right.
Well, you got a lot of influences. I mean, you've read a couple of books
Right.
lately of some of these influences too,
Right.
and people fall for the influences.
And because like you said yourself, about the wheel, who's got the, oh my gosh, that example that you give, is it, no, it's not a wheel. Maybe I'm not, my thoughts on all there. What I'm trying to say is the squeaky wheel.
The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yes, that is so true. And that's what's happening now. And too many people are so afraid to stand up for what's right that people are getting what they want to accomplish or want to say and do the right thing is no longer as important as it is doing the wrong thing.
Well, and it goes back to this idea. See, especially in our modern society, I believe that God gave all of us a desire to seek Him out.
Right.
And
He gave us free will.
Right.
Okay. But that free will, you have consequences, either pro or con.
Right. But we also have in us this desire to seek Him out.
Right.
If we reject Him, we don't seek Him out, that void is still there. Yes. And so we have this desire still to fill it. Right. So then what we do through our rule of man rather than rule of law, rather than God being godly, we follow the world and we try to, through the world, try to fill that void with something. Right. And that's why, you get these rock stars, man, and they're famous and they got the car and they got the house and they got the women and they've got, everything else that they want, and then they wind up committing suicide. Right. Because they filled it with everything they thought would make them feel whole. Right. And they still
have the void.
Alone or spiritually alone.
And, right.
So, because they filled it with the wrong stuff. And, I mean, you can eat dirt all day, but you'll still die of hunger. You need food. You need the right food. You need to fill your body with the thing that it needs, not with just anything. And what our spirit, what our soul needs is a relationship with God. Right. Now, that said, so we have that, and then we have the idea that people who are Christians or think they're Christians or call themselves Christians, and then what they do is they keep one foot in the church and they put one foot in the world. Right. And what did J. Vernon McGee say about that? Well, remember with the horses?
Well, the horses eventually they're going to part ways.
Right.
And you have to decide which direction you're going to go.
J. Vernon McGee, for those of you who are not familiar, through the Bible, and we actually listen to it every night, or just about every night. And he's given this example at least 2 or 3 times in the lessons. When you try to live in the world and you try to live godly, it's like having 2 feet, one on each horse. Eventually, those horses are going to part ways.
Right. And that's when you're going to have to determine which direction you're going to go. But the fact is, what's happening now, though, Doug, a lot of people are living in the world today.
Right.
Not many people want to live the godly way. because it's too hard. Because
Well,
people they feel that they have to follow the
it's
rules.
well, it goes beyond that. Not that I
Yeah.
want to get preachy here, because this is not about God, but it is this program.
Right.
And I think my listeners know this about me. I'm a Christian, I'm a
Right.
constitutionalist, and
Right.
I'm a political junkie. So
Right.
I kind of blend all three when I talk. But when it gets to the Christian part of it, or the godly part of it,
Right.
um, that is an important part of our system. Benjamin Franklin's "Only a virtuous people are capable of freedom," that wasn't some philosophical musing. It was a diagnostic truth about the American experiment. I mean, John Adams, and I think Sons of Liberty put this in there too. Yeah, matter of fact, he did. He put in the chat, only a virtuous, or I'm sorry, our Constitution was made only for moral, religious
Right.
people. Patrick Henry warned that a vitiated state of morals, a corrupted public conscience, is incompatible with freedom. These are more than just mere idle concerns. They were foundational principles upon which our republic was built.
Yeah.
So Benjamin Franklin, he wound up putting out a booklet on 13 virtues:
Okay.
temperance, silence, order, resolution, frugality, industry, sincerity, justice, moderation, cleanliness, tranquility, chastity, humility. He systematically cultivated these virtues, admitting he was surprised to find himself so much fuller of faults than he had imagined. He started studying the virtues and going through, studying the Bible. And he's like, man, I'm pretty messed up. And he admitted it. Say, hey, I'm surprised to find myself so much fuller of faults than I had imagined. That's called self-examination, and that gets back to our conversation a
Right.
moment ago. People don't
No.
self-examine; they just jump in there. They do what they want, what feels good. Oh, no, but I'll say a few Hail Marys, or I'll confess, or I'll pray about it. But
But the problem is, though, Dad, when you self-examine, that's when you have to once you're making that choice, then you have to turn away from the sinful things that you're doing. For some people, doing the wrong thing makes them feel good, but it's only a feel good thing for the moment. It doesn't last forever, but they still have that void they have to feel.
Chatron brings up an important verse. How everyone did what was right in his own eyes,
Mm-hmm. It's
and
true.
in Judges 17:6. And we have to remember that what it really comes down to is what's right in his eyes. Now, for those of you who are not Christians, bear with me here, because see, what's right in his eyes is for your own good.
Right.
He's like a parent. It's like when you parent your children, and they're like, "Oh, do I have to?" Yeah, because it's what's best for you. You know what they don't know. That's kind of the way God operates. Oh, it looks like we got the War Hamster coming on board here. Here, so as you can hear him.
Oh, okay, sure.
So, because I don't like to put it on the big speaker.
Oh, okay. Hey, we're sharing. Cool.
Yeah. Hey, War Hamster, how you doing, sir?
Howdy. Hey, everyone.
Yeah. Well, did you catch what we were just talking about?
A little bit. You were talking about, I heard you talking about celebrities that think they're God.
Something like that.
Something
Well,
of
it's
that
just
nature.
I just got into the foundation of our Constitution, the foundation of our system. Now, I have a feeling, though, you probably wanted to talk a little bit about Tulsi.
Yeah, I do have a couple comments on that, and I also
Yeah,
want to touch
please
the
do.
topic you were just talking.
And let me say this real quick to the audience. War Hamster and I have been friends since he started coming to a Constitution class of mine. But the man didn't want to get in front of a mic. He didn't want to get in front of a camera. And whenever he'd raise his hand, I'd say, hey, because we were also putting the show out there on video. So I said, hey, man, you got to come up here in front of the camera with a mic, because otherwise the audience can't hear you. And the first few times he kind of balked at it. And then finally he started doing it. Now we can't get him away from the camera. I don't know what to do. I created a monster act, yes. But no, but seriously, one of the things I love about War Hamster is he's one of the best researchers, aside from myself, I've met. He's a very good, him, a friend of mine, John L. Hancock, and myself are three of the best researchers that I know. And I value what he has to say. And sometimes he has insights that I don't. And so I'm always welcome his insights. So that now that I've raised the platform a little bit for you, and raise the bar a little bit for you, War Hamster. What do you have to say about this Tulsi Gabbard resignation?
It's funny. I heard about it right away online. I was doing a podcast with Colonel Towner Watkins
Okay.
earlier today, and someone popped it in the chat. And I had some nice comments for Adam Schiff's tweet, by the way. Called him pencil neck and let him know that Tulsi's got another 5 weeks on the job to still declassify stuff. Now, she's been declassifying a lot of stuff. And Trump's been saying very strongly, not just Trump, you can hear it from Bongino and others, there is some serious stuff, revelations that are coming out. So, the first thought is, did the deep state find some way to push her out to keep things from being disclassified? And I don't know that happened. I don't see any evidence of it, but there's a thought there.
I hope the person behind her is just as what's the word? Just as detailed and wanting to get this stuff out. Because that's what's one thing about Pam Bondi leaving is Blanche was better.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, so we'll see what happens here.
Well, here's the issue with replacing Tulsi is anybody who's not part of the deep state is never going to be confirmed by this rebellious Senate. The Senate just walked off the job without doing a ton of things America wants done. They are completely in an anti-Trump mode right now, thanks to John Thune and friends. We're not going to get a permanent DNI. We're never going to get a recess appointment. Trump will be the first person with this party in power in history not to get recess appointments. I don't know who you can get in to do that job that's going to be up to speed and all the stuff that she's been uncovering.
And even Blanche isn't permanent. He's just acting.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought that the idea what Trump should be able to do to get past the Senate, and they've been slow walking his appointments forever, and it's been ridiculous. They've been worse, but it's 6 months for a temporary appointment. I would have thought the thing to do is just this temporary, 6 months rotating appointments, but then you have the time to get people up to speed. So you've got to be planning for that from day one, and that's not efficient. Right. So this is the deep state, them slow walking and blocking Trump, just like they did Trump 45. They're doing the same thing. I'll give you another thought on this because it's very related. You get a lot of people up in arm over Thomas Massey getting primaried after he went against Trump and vice versa. I'm a small libertarian, and Massey comes across as say he's a small government guy, but he didn't talk about Epstein for 4 years under Biden. He mentioned him 3 times in 4 years. Mm-hmm. And then he comes out and now he's this, Epstein, and he's calling Trump a pedo protector, and the Epstein files completely. Well, what that really did, what Massey's bill did, first of all, he's the one that wrote the bill that forced the Department of Justice to have to redact all the names of people that might be under investigation. Massey wrote that bill, and then he yelled at Trump and called him a pedo protector. That's ridiculous. But there's a lot of people that are pro-Massey that are going to walk off the Trump plantation. And what that did with all the redactions, it took a bunch of DOJ attorneys out of investigations to spend countless man hours doing all the redactions. So tell me, how's that good when you have a Senate that can't even confirm attorney generals and DOJ?
And what's funny about that is Thomas Massey used to be one of my favorite representatives. I felt he was closest to the Constitution, getting back to small L libertarian. I lean in that direction on a lot of things. And now my first question is, who got to him? That's my thought. Who got to him? Is it him on his own doing this, or is there something else going on?
You see Candace Owens did an interview with Hunter Biden the other day?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder who got to her, but anyway, go ahead.
Well, it's probably the same people that are, look, these are people that are they lead with the fact that Trump is compromised by Israel, and make them Israel great again. That is their position, and they're just so anti-Israel. And it's funny. I'm critical of the Israeli government, and I'm far from anti-Semitic. But 2 things can be true at the same time. You can say that the Israelis have too much influence in American politics proportionately, but you can't stop there because there's a lot of other foreign governments that have influence.
Sure.
In America, a lot of foreign money.
Yeah.
Massey actually spent more money than his opponent, and a lot of that money came from Muslim countries. So who got to him?
Oh,
I don't know. I'm gonna try to post this link here, but there's a great rant there's a pretty good character by the name of Razor Fist, and I may have sent him to you before because he does a great rant on Abraham Lincoln, and he is a rock star of a influencer, but he's really sharp politically. And I'm going to track that down here while you're talking in a bit, and I'll put it in a link. And in fact, let me just track that down. And you can. Well, do you want me to play it? It's about 10 minutes, but it's a beautiful rant. It's that
Why
good.
not?
About
Okay.
Lincoln.
No, this one's about 10 minutes. It's about Massey. So
Massey.
since we jumped subjects on you,
Well, that's up to you. There's a couple of things I want to talk about, so maybe we'll come back to Massey later. But Massey fascinates me because, like I said, Rand Paul and Thomas Massey were like two of my favorites in Congress in each house, and Rand Paul, sometimes I'm scratching my head, and Thomas Massey, I'm scratching my head even more. But the Muslim connection, that's interesting because we've had this conversation before.
That's not
And
good.
I surprised War Hamster one time because I believe that Islam is a much bigger problem than progressivism ever be. But them joining forces makes it a double problem. Virginia never really fully understood what I was trying to explain about Islam.
Yeah.
And I'm friends with, or used to be friends. I don't know if we haven't been in touch. Waleed Shabat, who former Muslim, became a Christian. And then Virginia just finished the book Son of Hamas, if you're familiar.
Yeah.
And it opened her eyes on a lot of stuff. So to have associations with Islam, to be receiving money from Islam, I didn't know that. That's alarming.
Wow.
And people don't realize the influence that Islam has had from within. I mean, think about your textbooks.
Mm-hmm.
Who's funding all your textbooks for your high schools and middle schools and your Saudi Arabia?
Mm-hmm.
They're the primary funder.
Yeah.
I don't hear you, sir. You're muted.
so it's funny you say that because Ghislaine Maxwell, obviously Jeffrey Epstein's long-term partner in crime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Her father, Robert Maxwell, pretty much had a almost near monopoly on not only American textbooks in the late 60s and 70s, but also on all the whole peer-reviewed journals, stuff like that. And that's one of the major criticisms about Israeli influence on our country. It came from Robert Maxwell and Epstein, and that's actually almost at the core. People have actually researched far enough to understand what Robert Maxwell is. So that's look foreign. What have I said about the Brady Amendment? We've talked about this for years. You want clean elections and a much better, representative government? No campaign donor should be able to cross state lines, and they certainly shouldn't be able to cross international boundaries. You make that law, and you clean up a whole lot of stuff.
And to give people a little bit more idea, and for county elections, you can't cross county lines, or city elections can't. In other words, the money has to come from where the person's running.
Which makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I mean, how many California Democratic dollars went into Georgia?
Yep, exactly right.
Yeah.
You don't want Hollywood money impacting your Georgia election, period.
Right.
And there's a corollary to that rule, of that amendment, is only registered voters get to contribute to campaigns, and that gets rid of super PACs and corporate donations right then and there. And by the way, that issue right there polls at about 80% across the party lines, which is why it'll never become an amendment.
Well, the only way that you'll get some of these amendments, and this is a discussion we'll have to have another time because I'm not ready to blow up the airwaves just yet on this issue. But the only way really to get the amendments like that you want is through an Article 5 convention.
Yeah. To me, it's crystal clear.
Yeah.
To me, it's crystal clear whether you like Thomas Massey or hate Thomas Massey. We've noticed this for more than a year. It's pretty clear that there is a wedge being driven into the MAGA movement, and it started with Epstein. Because remember, Trump didn't campaign on Epstein. He was asked about it on the campaign trail. And he said, "Yeah, I'd consider releasing those files. We'd have to take a look in Trump's normal style." And now people are convoluting that to say, "Oh, Trump campaigned on releasing, and then he tried to cover him up, so now he's a pedo protector." And that's basically false. But there is definitely money being sent to some influencers. We have people that have done a huge 180. There's a really popular libertarian, Dave Smith, who I really like on a lot of issues, but I could not disagree with him more because he's made Israel the center of his universe. Same thing with Massey. Same thing with Candace. You can be critical of Israeli foreign policy and influence, but it's not the center of the influence. It is not the center of the universe.
And we've seen this argument for years, that Israel or Jews are the fault. And my first question is always, when you say the Jew, which one?
Yeah.
because there's different, just like in America. Just when Obama was president didn't mean we were all a bunch of Obamaites, for example. And same thing goes for Israel, same thing goes for Russia, same thing goes for China. Now, certain governments are going to have more governmental control, and there's jerks in every country, there's jerks in every belief system, there's jerks in every ideology. That's reality. Ultimately, what it comes down to for me is collectivism versus individualism.
Okay, so I'm glad you just said that, because the series I'm doing right now with Colonel Towner is basically about Fabian socialists. And for those who don't know,
The
those who
ultimate
don't know the Fabian
collectivists.
socialists, and I went through all the philosophical histories, and I basically there's two basic schools. You have John Locke, who was on my Mount Rushmore, and he gave us life, liberty, and property, and he said the only legitimate form of government is one that preserves your God-given natural rights. Anything else than that, even 1% more government than that, and you are taking away someone's individual rights, period, for the collective good, which is Rousseau, Marx, and all the, Robespierre and all the leftists.
Yeah.
And once you give up an inch, it's incrementally, they'll always take more and more power, period.
They do.
Yeah.
The boiling frog,
that's
as Virginia mentioned.
Start slowly, and yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and that's what the Fabians said they were going to do. That's exactly what the Fabian socialists did. They want the same end goal as the violent Marxist revolution, but they're about evolution. We're going to do this slowly over time. We're going to incrementally. That's why their original logo was the sheep and wolf, was the wolf in sheep's clothing, and then they switched to a turtle. The turtle says, "We move slowly, but when we strike hard." That's what we're living through, is a Fabian takeover of all of our institutions. And you can see it in the universities, you can see it in the think tanks, you can see it across the government agencies, the NGOs. These are all Fabian setups, and what they want is that eventually they're one world government.
America will raise the red flag of socialism themselves.
Yeah.
Willingly.
So that's the series. We just did part 3 of that series today, and it was we actually went back a little further and went to a group called the X Club, which was Thomas Huxley, who was the older relative of Aldous Huxley and a couple other crazy Huxleys. You have any idea how deep the Huxley family history of mental illness is?
Oh, yeah. I don't know probably details like you're learning, but I've got a good idea. Yeah, I've read through this stuff before.
Sons of Liberty mentioned some great thinkers, Locke, Montesquieu, Bastiat, Kant, and Descartes. Kant's an interesting one because he's almost the bridge between classical liberals and the collectivists. Because Kant evolved over time to become a little bit more of a collectivist. So his writings, it was fantastic early on, but then he started incrementally getting worse, or we consider worse. But yeah, that's a pretty good list you got there, Sons of Liberty.
Yeah, and Rottweiler put a good Ron Paul quote in there. Racism is simply an ugly form of collectivism. Racism will endure until we stop thinking in terms of groups and begin thinking in terms of individual liberty. And that's what that's what this Calais case is all about. Everybody says, "Oh, well, they're taking away black dominant districts."
No.
Because we're thinking of groups here. When you keep separating everybody into little groups and you're trying to cater to the group, and it's group think and it's group politics, identity politics, you're going to continue destroying the system. Because what that causes is, are you ready, Virginia? Class warfare. That's what they're looking for. And the thing is, this goes back to your Fabians. In America, and this also goes to Makusa, when in America, because of our system, there is no top ruling class and then the peasant class. We have all points in between as well. We have this thriving middle class. Anybody can work their way up to be, to sit at the table with all the other people that are sitting at that table at the top. Everybody's capable of it. You get the breaks, work hard, whatever. Everybody's capable. So that kind of Marxist revolution would not work here. So they had to do it incrementally. How do you see? There's an old saying, you don't fix what ain't broke. So how do you convince the American people to fix what ain't broke? You convince them that it's broke. Tell them they can't believe their eyes and ears. It's broke and then indoctrinate them with it's broke. There needs to be change.
Well, what's worse than that is they use Hegelian dialectic. So if it isn't broken, they break it. That's what we call a manufactured crisis.
Black Lives Matter is the perfect example of the Hegelian dialectic.
The best one ever.
You create the problem, racism. You create the group that stands against it, Black Lives Matter. Then you create the solution, more government, and socialism. That's the Hegelian dialectic. in a
The
nutshell.
best example I've always used has always been the climate hoax.
Yeah.
They basically they manufacture a crisis. They're the solution. You know, thesis, antithesis, synthesis. The synthesis is always one world government. In the chat, Sons of Liberty says tribalism. That's another point I hit home on year after year. They basically keep us divided, right versus left, black versus white. They want the two sides. It's called strategy of tension. So you never look up and see who's pulling the puppet strings. That's exactly what they've been doing to us for years.
And then to keep you happy about it, at the same time, all along, they're doing a redistribution of wealth.
Yeah, and it's nothing new. It's
That's
divided.
that's the fair thing to do.
The same divide and conquer that they used back
Right.
in the Roman times days.
Oh, yeah, the exact same one. Exact same.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, when it comes to Rome, it's funny because when you read Cicero, you really, really get a good idea about it. And Cicero, at one point, he says, "Hey, our traditions are being taken over. Our, our, I'm trying to remember all the words now, but I gave her a book about Cicero to read. And she'd never heard of Cicero. By the time she was done with it, she's like, okay, now I get why you mentioned Cicero so much. He was right there at the moment where it was going from republic to empire.
Wait a minute, you made Virginia read Cicero?
Oh, yeah. Well, what's the name? What was the name of the book?
I don't remember.
It was basically like a biography about Cicero, not his writings. Trust me, I've got his writings too. She's reading that eventually. But
lucky me.
wait, she says that she wants to know what I know.
I do.
Now, I did start her slow. I started her on some easy stuff. A little bit of Orwell. Some.
I like the Orwell with the little animals.
The Animal Farm. You like that one?
I like that one. Yeah.
But I started her on simpler stuff. Now she's getting to the point where she's reading Son of Hamas.
Yeah.
Return of the Gods. What was there was another one?
I got that book, that Return of the Gods.
That one. If you've not read Return of the Gods by Jonathan Cahn, that'll blow you out of the water.
Your eyes of what's really going on in the world.
Well, there's a lot going on, and there's spiritual warfare.
Right.
There's the socialism, Fabian type attack. You've got Islam, and they're all working together to bring down this system that the founders created. And once again, because the only way to take it down is to convince everybody that it's the problem. It's flawed because its creators were flawed.
The problem is also, though, Doug, that most people believe that.
Yeah, well, people fall for it easily because
they understand why they are not willing to.
Because the truth is too simple. It's too easy to believe. It's got to be something worse.
That's the
problem. Just because my life isn't turning out exactly the way I want, and somebody's got more than I do, it's got to be someone else's fault. I can't take personal accountability, and that's what they've taught.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why they poison
somebody else. Yeah, they blame somebody else for their issues. Yeah.
And they do this to us on purpose. They poison our education system. They tear apart the family. They don't want us to learn self-reliance, and that's that sort of thing. And people that are weaker are very susceptible to it.
And that's really sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who are going out there and putting the bombs on their bodies and destroying themselves and killing everybody else with them too.
So Rottweiler wants to know, did I tell you that I'm so smart that I can't remember what you'll ever know? I have forgotten more than you'll ever know. Have I ever said anything like that? No. Now I did tell her though. I got a head start on her. She'll never catch up to me, but because I'm learning still too.
Yes, I will.
But yes, I
will. So Virginia, we'll become secret pen pals, and I'll start sending you some of the books that I've read that Doug hasn't.
There is, you know what though, Brady?
Them be fighting words.
So much to read, and now that I have the time, I don't longer have a job. My job is Doug and helping him out. I have time to read. So far, I've read 15 books this year. So far.
Just this year. Now, that doesn't count what you read last year.
Right.
All right.
And I enjoy the knowledge. I mean, I suck it in like a little sponge, but it could become also overwhelming because you see the reality of what's going on. And I feel bad for the people that don't understand why they're voting the way they vote and why.
And understand, it's not just political books, folks. It's like, for example, right now she's reading Chuck Swindoll's book on Job.
Yeah.
So there's a mixture in there.
Yeah.
And I've got a bunch of Chuck Swindoll's books, and they're very good, different persons from the Bible.
So I've got a recommendation. Y'all see this book?
Yeah, I've seen it before. I don't have it.
Yeah.
It's a Superclass by David Rothkopf. I don't agree with him politically at all.
But you read the book?
Oh, yes. David Rothkopf was Kissinger's right-hand man for about 30 years when he was doing things like opening up China. What he's
Oh,
writing about in Superclass is he says that at any given time, there's about 6,000 families around the world, some
okay.
Jewish, some is Muslim, some from England, some from
Okay.
Sweden, without a doubt, some Americans on Wall Street, etc.
Chinese.
All these 6,000 families are all vying for this global game of control. And nobody ever sits at the head of the table because no one else is going to let anyone get that powerful. It's always a rotating shift. These are the people behind the strings. These are the puppet masters. And it is a
Okay.
fascinating book. But he was in the room
It's
when a lot of
John Wick on a global scale.
it's exactly what it is.
I like John
Where
Wick.
do you
Sounds
think
like
where do you think Wick got the idea for that? I mean,
Yeah.
that movie. But
Yeah.
that is it. To understand geopolitics, I think it is one of the best books, unless you want to read 1,400 pages of Carol Quigley, which nobody wants to do.
Oh, you
And
mean that book right over her head, Tragedy and Hope?
you sure
What's
that
the
thing's
name
not
of
going
the
to crush
book
the
with-
bookshelf?
Yeah, that's right
What's
there,
it-
right at the tip of my finger.
Yeah. I
Next
see
to
it.
the red book for those of you.
Yeah.
Right next to the book
Oh,
that says "The South Was Right."
what's
the name of the book?
interesting about Quigley? What's
No,
interesting about
that-
Quigley is the more important book is the Anglo-American Empire.
You have that book then?
I do, but it's packed.
Oh, okay. And the name of the book that you just showed me, can you text it today?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. So I can read it.
Yeah, there's another book I want you to read real soon too, and it's I thought right behind you. It's called The Election of 1860.
We need to get it
War Hamster
together.
knows about the election of
We need to get
1860 because
together
he
and
has
have
that
some
book.
tea or something. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I got that book right over there.
Yeah, I've got it right here somewhere, right behind us somewhere. I don't see it at the moment, but it's like right around here somewhere.
Oh, we'll find it after.
Yeah, no, and
We'll
the thing
find
is,
it.
here's the thing.
Yeah. What's on?
You know, and folks listening, really, really think about this. When you're reading, when you're studying, you try to get, or at least what I try to do is, sources that are as close to what I want to learn about as I can
Yeah.
find, original sources, or two, persons who are researchers who I know are studying original sources. Those are my first two criteria normally, if you want to know the truth.
We wouldn't share it with everybody though, Dike.
So, Sons of Liberty, 6,000. We have the names and locations. You said we got a lot of the names.
We do. Start with the Rockefellers. Those are my favorite villains.
Walking on. I think you guys should set up a round table with our unfortunate morning host. I'll rarely agree with an opinion of his, but he obviously needs some education.
Who's this?
The morning host. We'll have to find out who that is. We'll see.
Okay.
I don't like to call out other hosts because I'd rather just have them learn on their own.
There you go. I agree.
I don't get involved in flame wars. I think
Not worth it.
I think it makes everyone look bad. But there's some people like Adam Schiff. I'm going to call him Pencil Neck and call him out. And you know who I've just been bombarding the last week or two?
Who's
Is
that?
Mark Elias, the super Democrat election lawyer.
Uh-huh.
He basically, when they lost that Kalai case, he has been posting frantically like a teenager. It's amazing watching him, and he's just getting more and more hysterical with time.
Wow.
So I just keep reposting, quote tweeting him, and just Mark having a little issue there, and it's been really entertaining how bad this guy's melting down. I mean, they're losing. So, it's one way to judge how successful you're being is the behavior of your enemies.
Yeah.
No, I definitely consider him an enemy. So.
Well, and for me, it always goes back to original principles for me and the Constitution and all of that. Original principles of my faith, and original principles of Constitution. That's where I typically come from. That said, I understand that sometimes, we have never. Let's rephrase this. We have never been purely constitutional. Within a year, they were violating the Constitution. I have a saying in my class. My students have heard this many times. They say, "Well, because someone will ask me, hey, Doug, when did things start going south?" Before the ink was dry.
Before the ink was dry. I borrow your quote all the time.
Yeah, and it's true. You really look back. So the key here is to get back what you can. Start heading back that direction. We're never going to get there. And it goes back to, once again, it's like you got this current under your boat. It's never going to stop pushing you.
Right.
It's not we will never win the battle, but we must never lose it. And the problem is the other side is so good at hitting the youth. It goes back to Hitler. One of Hitler's quotes was when asked about, the older generations, and he says, well, who are you? You will pass away. And the younger generation already stands in the new camp.
Wow.
That's what they're doing. They're doing that exact thing. And how can we fight the good fight, but going back to my example of the yellow raft going down the Niagara River, the falls are in the distance. You're rowing in a different direction to get away from the falls. And eventually you're going to get tired. You got to hand the oars to somebody, but they don't know to row. They don't know how to row. They don't know the reason to row. And they're not willing to row. We're going over the falls. That younger generation has to know. And they've already got a head start on our kids.
Yes, they do.
Well, there's another way of looking at it. The only perfect liberty you'll ever have is basically Garden of Eden, when there's only Adam and Eve. Once you get a third person in the mix, you now have a community, and you lose perfect liberty.
People ask me often when things started, and I said, all began with a serpent. So there you go.
Yeah.
Walking on says, how's about every other Friday gig here, War Hamster? Nothing binding. What do you think, Doug? This is great. Doug's given me an open invitation to join him in Virginia.
Yeah, you're always welcome. Always.
Yeah.
Fridays are tough for me. My wife she travels a bit during the week, and when she gets home, I'd like to spend time with her. I'm free tonight because she's working her little tail off right now. So I got nothing else to do besides hang out with my friends. I will stop by as often as I can, but no promises.
Well, hang on a second. Let me make sure, though, this is completely fine. What do you think?
It's good.
Okay. We're good.
Well, it's fun because I know I totally interrupted you. You probably had a whole bunch of list of things.
No, this is fine because here's the thing. Whenever you and I get on the air together, it's always a good thing. This is one of the reasons why I love having her on the show, too, is because while I think I have a lot to say, it is nice to hear what the other side, and also you and her and even those who oppose me, you guys sharpen my knives. You make me a better, you make me a better debater. You make me discuss better, and you make me think. I mean, sometimes she'll say something, I go, hadn't thought of that. Because she's looking at it more from the audience's point of view, and she might ask a question that they didn't ask, and I go, I hadn't thought of that. That's a good point. So collaboration like this is always good.
And you're a more natural teacher than I am. But I have a little bit of innate ability to explain things, but sometimes I wonder if I'm talking over people's head and need to bring it back down to more of a base level and then build it back up. So, anytime, I mean, it's the first time you started doing the shows with Virginia, it was great because she'd just stop you and say, no, please explain more. And you'd have to back it off and build it back up. Because I know we got listeners, we got some listeners are, as knowledgeable as we are. And then we got some that are, relatively new and just now getting upset at the world. And, it's important to do these building blocks because you can't learn this stuff overnight.
No.
And
I've spent my whole life.
Yeah,
and it's like I was, talking to her about me getting a head start on her. I've been studying this stuff since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
I decided I wanted to learn more about the Constitution when I was 8 years old. But the thing is, and thanks, Walking On, that's the beauty of this movement for sure. The Constitution does not need to be written. It needs to be reread and then followed. Rottweiler, I have that to put on the back of my truck once I get my truck back. I already have a little sign that says exactly that.
I give a corollary? I would like to rephrase certain parts of the Constitution so it can no longer be misinterpreted. So I do want a little bit of a rewrite. Things like, I don't know, not common good, but general welfare. I can't stand that. I'd like to see the enumeration doctrine actually enumerated more than it did so in the 10th Amendment, so they can't mess with that. There's a number of things I'd like to see phrased.
Well, general welfare clause, if you want clarity, all you got to do is read James Madison's veto of the 1817 bonus bill.
Indeed. Unfortunately, most people don't.
And most people go, huh?
Well, it's for the
general president.
Look, for the record, 98% of what Congress does, they've got no business even talking about in the first place. But they all blame it on.
Now I've got you on the line, and that has come up. Let me tell you about something I heard the other day. For example, and nobody caught it. They put this on, and then their commentary was different than what was said. Pay a pal from Washington. She says, Well, that, she's talking about packing the Supreme Court. And she says, well, it's not a crazy idea. The number of justices have been changed a number of times in history because of the increase in population.
Hmm.
No, the number's never been changed because of the increase in population. That's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Every time it was for political reasons. Number two, then that goes to the panel, and the Democrat on the panel says, well, I don't know why she's talking about Congress doing it, because Congress has nothing to do with how many justices there are.
Really?
I'm like, in one clip, one discussion, both people said something stupid, and then the commentators that are there didn't pick up on either one of them. And the reason, here's why I bring this up, because it shows how uneducated people are. And my Constitution classes that I did, people say, why do this? It's because how can you know how to fix this if you don't understand how it's supposed to operate in the first place? If you don't understand, if you have not read the rule book, if you've not read the owner's manual, if you have not figured out, and I'm going to use this as an example. So we got this new lawnmower, and I can't get the thing to crank over. Well, I tossed the owner's manual.
You did.
So I didn't read it. I finally had to figure out I had to pull something back, get it out of the way. But I had to figure it out the hard way. If I just read the owner's manual, it would have been easy. Yeah. Learn the owner's manual. It's called the Constitution. That's all I ask. Then we can have the conversations.
Indeed.
You go, Doug.
What else do you have on your?
Do I have passion hyped up or not? Or what, huh?
Oh, I'm just getting started here. I got another half an hour with you. I'm going to see if I can make steam come out of your head. Let's get it going.
Oh, no.
What else do you have?
Over your head.
All right, should we talk about Hamilton?
Well, one of the things I was talking about was a virtuous society, and I was talking about Benjamin Franklin, how he systematically cultivated the virtues he believed in. Mm-hmm. He admitted that he had as many faults as he had. His humility, though, that reveals a crucial truth. Yeah. That virtue isn't achieved through self-congratulation. It's through his honest self-assessment.
Yes.
A disciplined self-examination, as she and I have said. Right. And one of the biggest problems, I think, with Americans is we can't self-examine, but we can't say anything about anybody else. We don't be offensive. We think we're wonderful. We won't self-examine, and we fall for the stupidest crap. Because if you don't believe in something, you fall for everything, right?
True. And let me say something else on that, too. If you don't self-examine, if you do, you'd have to be willing to change.
Right.
Okay, and some people...
It's one thing to self-examine. Right. It's nothing to recognize what's wrong and be willing to change it. Right.
If you're not willing to change and stand back and say, hey, this is wrong with me, I need to change it for the better. But if you're not willing to do that, what does it matter? It does not matter at all. So if you're not willing to do the right thing, everything else does not matter. You can.
Well, and the thing is,
like the saying goes, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink it.
This is true. So, and the thing is, though, is personal virtue and political liberty.
Right.
You can't have one without the other.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
The connections, James Madison said, to suppose that any form of government will secure liberty or happiness without any virtue in the people is a chimerical idea. The founders understood that self-government requires the self-governed individuals to be virtuous, embrace lawfulness, embrace order, moral order, be good people. Alexis de Tocqueville, when he came in the 1830s, one of his observations was, and a lot of people, when they see democracy in America, they think that's a confirmation of us being a democracy. He was saying in his book, if you read his book, America is chasing a very dangerous thing, democracy. But because America is good, they may be able to survive it. That's basically what he was saying. So even democracy, which normally destroys every system, if it's a good, moral, personally virtuous people, they can survive that. They can get through it. They can get back to where they should be. I mean, even John Adams, even though he was a Unitarian, said public virtue cannot exist in a nation without private virtue, and public virtue is the only foundation of republics. But yet today we're witnessing the consequences of abandoning all this. Mm-hmm. Political division.
One of the other things.
Go ahead.
Yeah, one of the other things the founding fathers absolutely understood was human nature.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Absolutely. So I've been saying this for years.
They understood that human beings are corruptible, and power is going to tempt the corrupt to become part of that government. So they put in the safeguards. Unfortunately, you get people like Alexander Hamilton, managed to start tearing down those safeguards on day one.
Right. Well, and Andrew Breitbart, I think, got it right when he said that politics is downstream for culture. You've heard me say this so many times in classes. How can we get our political house in order if we can't even get our religious, moral house in order?
True. That's true.
Hey, real quick comment in chat from Hey Sunny Daisy. Instead of following the original schedule to chopper to Trump to National in Bedminster, New Jersey, Trump just stepped off Marine One to jump back on Air Force One en route to DC. So something's happening tonight. That's an unscheduled trip back to DC. Yeah. When I finally free up a little bit more free time the next month or two, I'm going to start doing the daily show that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And every Monday morning, or it'll be Monday at noon Eastern, I'm going to have yourself, Colonel Towner, Ghost of Base Patrick Henry, a few other friends, the guys at the Big Mig, George and Lance, those guys that were frequent guests. We're going to do a Monday morning sit rep just to go through the news of the weekend because there's so much happening. You get the Friday night news dump, which Democrats always do, so that the bad stuff doesn't get talked about because everyone's enjoying their weekend. But there's just so much that happens every weekend. So the Monday morning news dump, that's going to be a really fun show. And Doug's agreed to be a semi-regular guest on that. If there's a topic that's constitutional, something like that, he'll be getting a text from me Sunday night, that kind of thing. But,
Moanon says, well, Don Jr. is getting married. I know that. And the thing about Don Jr. getting married, Trump has already said he's not going to be there. And, he said it's because he's got so many things going on. And, congratulations, Don, but he can't be there. But I think also part of the reason why the president isn't at Don Jr.'s wedding is because he doesn't want to steal the spotlight kind of thing. I think because it's Don Jr.'s day. So I don't think that's the reason for the sudden change of, from, the copter to Air Force One.
It's also possible that they're not going to broadcast when Trump's going to a location that's probably more vulnerable than others.
Right.
And which brings up, of course, the topic of how the Senate managed to shut down the, the ballroom. Doesn't look like that's going to happen now. Which is ridiculous.
Well, we'll see what happens. Unfortunately, the answer over and over and over is we'll see what happens in November.
Yeah.
Monan says he got married yesterday and the reception's today on an island. And that's another funny thing that these people, these Make Israel Great Again people, the ones that are focusing on Israel and everything like that, they also believe that all 4 assassination attempts on Trump were staged. Yeah. All fake. Yeah, that's the big one that's out there as well. But these are people that they were quote unquote MAGA influencers in the last 4 years. So
and that kind of ties in what I was talking about. That's this deeper moral fragmentation we're experiencing, where we're losing the capacity for honest self-assessment. We're losing the capacity for recognizing the truth, for common sense. I mean, we've abandoned responsibility for actions, which you mentioned earlier. We've rejected biblical understanding that motives matter just as much as actions. So one of the examples I like to use when it comes to something like that is, it's not a sin to eat, but it's a sin to be gluttonous. Sometimes the sin is not what it is; it's the motive behind it. We've created this vacuum of a lack of morality, and tyranny is filling it. And that's what Franklin warned: as nations become more corrupt and vicious, they have more need of masters. You've heard me say that quote so many times; it's probably coming out your ears. This is where we're at as a country. And I'm not necessarily trying to be a downer. It needs to be talked about because it needs to be recognized that we have we have a moral vision that's being destroyed purposely by design. Our American system, was rooted in Scripture, and that itself provided the best framework for the kind of virtue that the founders felt was necessary for liberty. And to combat against human nature, as War Hamster brought us. I mean, we need to be honest without being cruel, responsible without self-flagellation, firm without being harmful. Have joy without frivolity. I mean, all of these things are important. We need to be able to discern. We can't it gets back to what I said earlier. We can't get our political house in order until we get a religious and moral house put in order, and that requires returning to the kind of intentional virtue cultivation that Franklin practiced. It's a necessary foundation for freedom. And so what I'm looking at is what's next. because now I think we live in a society that's beginning to recognize that the wokeism and the redistribution of wealth and all this stuff is not good, but then that doesn't necessarily mean they suddenly understand the truth. They just know it's wrong.
Right.
But they don't know what's right yet. It's like Spencer Pratt in LA trying to get, LA knows something's going wrong. Everybody's house burned down, but they don't know the right direction to go from here because they've been so inundated in leftist, idiocy that they can't see through the scum on top of the pond.
I get that. Hey, I would really like to play a few minutes of that Razorfish video. I think you're going to find his language so entertaining, it's worth it. Can I do it?
Go for it. Go for it. You already have it ready? Have you been working on getting it ready?
I think I got it ready to go right now.
All right, go ahead. And then we'll comment about it afterwards.
It's important to him.
Nope, I don't want to share that window. I want to share a different window. I want to share this window.
What?
Should be seeing it now?
I see. Yes, I see it.
Okay.
And I'm going to hit play.
Can't hear him, though.
Yeah, we can't hear
You got no volume at all?
No volume.
Oh.
Let me try it again.
Remember, when you hit share, there's two little squares you got to click.
He's
It's not giving me that option.
Oh.
I am going to stop the share. Well, I'm going to try to share it one more time. Huh. You can see it. Let me just shoot the click over to you in a text. Are you able to pull it up and you can do it?
All right.
All right, so I'll stop my share. Let me shoot it over to you. This guy is actually really good. He started out as a gamer, streamer, but he's pretty darn politically savvy. And I find him absolutely hysterical. His use of the English language is, well, you'll catch it right away. He's a gifted individual. And somehow this gamer guy has read some of the same history we have. So when he goes on political topics, he usually gets things pretty good. And he does not back down from anyone.
All right. Let's see here. Let me get this where I can use it. Hang on just a sec.
It was weird. See, normally I host the my Zooms so I can always share, but it was different on this.
Huh.
While you're doing that, I'll look at chat. They're talking about AI. My company is doing a lot of work with AI, guys. We're gonna have some stuff to announce pretty soon, and we're turning it into a political tool.
Yeah, AI is like anything. It could be a wonderful tool and a wonderful weapon, depending on who wields it.
Well, Doug knows who my creative business partner is, and that's we've got some pretty good people on that side of it.
Oh yeah.
Too many people use AI as a glorified search engine, and it is good at that. But you have to know your subject because otherwise the AI hallucinations will get you.
All right.
You got it?
Yes, ma'am. Hang on a second.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, Moanon. I didn't get the share audio button on the right. It gave me a different screen that I'm used to. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I'll take care of it. I'm pulling it.
Might be because I have it on a different browser.
Pass the ads first.
Ah.
Okay, there you go.
Buck your seatbelts, people. This should be very entertaining.
Share.
And we're doing dead air because we're so competent with our technology.
Share sound. Nice for video. So it used to be at the bottom left. Now those things to click are on the right.
I can see it now.
Well, as predicted, Trump popped a political pimple. Thomas Massey is out. In short, total Lobert exterminatus. Before I commence with mocking the massacre, a moment of silence for cocaine Mitch McConnell. Man! man, hard to believe the vote for me to pwn Israel message failed to resonate in a landlocked southern state that thinks Netanyahu is the name of a search engine. Look, I criticized Massey long before he even uttered the word Epstein, so I don't want to hear about it. I criticized him all the way back in 2023, 24, when he suddenly simped for DeSantis. Indeed, a cursory search of his X account confirms Massey hardly uttered the name Epstein prior to the year 2025, just 3 times in total, in case you're curious, which is beyond baffling given I think he took part in at least one House committee on the subject, whereupon Massey was a mute. No questions, no fucking follow-ups, nary a word when it couldn't benefit him politically. But mysteriously, in 2025, when it was time for everyone to initiate a divide the right strategy I could see from space, he turns into the arch admiral of the Epstein files. And look, I'll listen to anything on Epstein, provided it's proven. But therein lies the rubdown, folks. In months of exhaustive re-examination, we've seen more subtle inference than a Silent Hill monster. What we have not seen is actual evidence. And speaking of factoids, here's a fucking free one for you. The internet is not real life. Hell, the internet isn't even fake life. It's the kind of place where charity shelters get canceled when people find out they have a homepage, where the entire populace shamelessly shifts from being a Titanic submarine specialist to a Charlie Kirk neck wound ballistics expert inside of an hour and a half, where Candace Owens is on month 8 of being just around the corner from breaking the Erica Kirk case wide open, and where a neck-bearded, bloviating mongoloid named Massey can beat his hairy moves about fighting government overreach while doxing innocent men in the Epstein case without charge or trial, surprising precisely no one. Every gaping asshole autismo-nut from Fuentes to Cenk the Crank can't stop crying about Israeli money in this election. This despite Massey fundraising more money than Gowron, you retards. If money was all that mattered in conquest, Massey would be Alexander the Greating. And if you think an 11th hour bit of baby mama drama about bumping uglies with another woman before his ex-wife's body had hit room temperature cost him the victory, I've got oceanfront property in Kentucky to sell you. Look, I don't give a shit where Massey parks his pine cone. I could have gone my entire life without knowing Lauren Boebert's birth canal is basically Ellis Island for never Trumpers. But if you think a late-inning Laura Loomer Gossip Hour exclusive about a boner phone led to a 10-point differential in this race, any rational soul can comfortably discard your white-hot takes from here on in, all right? You don't lose by double digits without being hated like rat poison by your constituents for some time beforehand. Cope and cry all you like. It's nothing but the truth, and you know it. I'm not recording this to gloat, although you have given me plenty of retarded takes to gloat about over the last 2 years. Here's some of them. Rather, I am recording this rant because I'm in the unique position of not being credibly accused of having flipped on Massey only after he took aim at Trump or Israel. Indeed, I called out Massey for being a grandstanding goof, as I said ages ago, back when Biden was in office, when I noticed the only posture he maintains consistently is counter-signaling conservatives. And no, being small government, America only, or even anti-Israel doesn't even almost qualify as consistent in this case. If Massey's entire campaign was quartered in his principled refusal to be funded by Jews, it was curious tactics indeed to take cash from Jeff Yass, a Pennsylvania billionaire so Jewish he just circumcised Massey's entire career, to say nothing of the bloated bankroll of waspy American names like Hussein and Banim Mahrouk, pseudonyms for an Iranian billionaire consortium whose ancestors came over on the Mayflower, I'm fucking sure. Mohammed Mahrouk. Boy, that's a big family right there.
Yeah,
Zaid Mahrouk.
Mahrouk.
Right.
What the fuck?
What the fuck? And do you see the monetary amount? $7,000.
7,000, 5,000, 3,500.
The dude just the 7,000. This is on opensecrets.org, by the way. You can check this for yourself.
Oh, anti-Zionist America PAC.
Hey, if you shoot guns a lot and you're not as good as you'd like,
That's probably good, Doug.
you're probably going to want to see this.
All right.
What I've just dropped inside of here is my Laser Strike cartridge, which goes with
Very colorful language, I must say, but the guy does his homework.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm not taking sides about Massey whatsoever.
He does
I got
have an
friends
entertaining, by the way, presentation too.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, his grasp of the English language is admirable. It's pretty creative. So some of those analogies,
But yeah, but I'm glad you showed that, because how many times have we heard, well, he's just getting money from Israel, Jews, whatever. Well, yeah, that's an interesting list.
yeah, it really is. In fact, that many people, what, a couple dozen with the same last name, obviously probably not from Kentucky. That would be worth looking into. So, that's a lot of, here's some of the more chatter. Massey's, setting himself up for 2028 presidential run. That's never going to happen. At this point, he can just be a fly in the ointment. That was one of the other worst rumors I saw today. Is people said Tulsi stepping down so she can run for VP in 28 as a Republican. We'll see what happens. Like I said,
well, and the thing is, people know things are so screwed up that they're always looking for reasons. And while I do know we're lied to a lot, and there are a lot of conspiracy reasons for a lot of things, that doesn't mean that every single thing has a hidden motive and every single thing is a conspiracy. So this is where we have to use our discernment.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and you mentioned Robert Barnes. Robert Barnes is one of those Twitter lawyers. Not sure if he has a really successful legal case. He's got a pretty big Twitter following. He does a lot of shows with Viva Frei. He's gone off the Trump bandwagon over the last year or so. He's one of them. And, basically, the guy I like quite a bit is the People's Pundit, Richard Barris. And Barris just went on with Tucker Carlson, and Barris's analysis is correct. I agree with him when he's looking at the numbers, the real polls. He's very good. But Barris saying that, Trump really messed up with the Epstein files, and it's cost him the younger voters. We know that, baby boomers are more likely to vote in the midterms than the younger voters, but it's still important to get that, contingent back. Tucker Carlson is interesting. I've always been a Tucker fan.
Yeah.
I used to watch his when he was on Fox.
Yeah.
Tucker Carlson went to high school. He's a year younger than me. Went to high school less than 5 miles from where I went to high school in San Diego. And I'm not exactly a wallflower in San Diego. He went to a private school called La Jolla Country Day. I went to the public school up the road, Torrey Pines. I have never met Tucker Carlson, or have I ever met anybody who actually knew him. And that's strange because he's from La Jolla. I spent 10 years of my career working in La Jolla. I'm out in public a lot. Never met anyone who even knew him. We know about his father's CIA background and everything like that. But even to this day, I enjoyed a lot of what Tucker had to say.
Until he went off the deep end.
He jumped the shark for me, not because his arguments were totally off base, because I agree with some of what he says, but when he platformed, Nick Fuentes, I get, this guy who, is his own small corner of the internet making a lot of noise. I don't think Nick's solutions are all, voting for Democrats and going socialist. This guy's a big government, pretty much close to a Nazi fascist. But that being aside, the guy he platformed that got me was a guy who's been running around. Guy came out of nowhere, named a Chinese guy named Professor Zhang, who's a high school teacher, and he's a Chinese guy. And he goes up there and he does these presentations on a whiteboard like he's teaching a class, and he's not. But he went from 0 followers to a whole bunch really fast and got on the Tucker Carlson show really quick. And I've watched this Professor Zhang a number of times, and the one thing you notice is everything he does, he will never blame China for a darn thing. So that's a plant. And if Tucker's having Professor Zhang on his show, I'm done with him.
Well, that guy and that gets back to what I said about other people earlier who got to him. And that's what I felt about John Roberts. And I realized that we are up against an enemy that I don't know if most people have the fortitude to stand against the enemy. And when I say the enemy, I'm not talking China, I'm not talking Russia, I'm not talking Islam, I'm not talking the Democratic Party. I'm talking a blend of all of that and more. And a lot of the enemy is in our own camp. A lot of as War Hamster is pointing out here. And this is, in my opinion, a spiritual warfare. Folks who listen to the show, watch the show, have heard this. But we need to understand that we're up against an enemy that wants to destroy our system. And to destroy our system, they have to destroy our virtue, which brings me back to what I was talking about earlier. Because, we got to be, if liberty demands that we're virtuous, liberty demands that we are responsible, that we have a constitutional government that depends on moral citizens, and that's what they're attacking. And what we're seeing is not whether or not we are going to heed the warnings from the founding fathers and the biblical wisdom they used for the foundation of our system. We got to just, first of all, stop putting both feet in the world and recognize there's a war going on. They're at war. We're not. We just think it's a political disagreement. That's our problem.
Well, we also need to redefine what we call war, because we're in the middle of 5th generation warfare, and we're fighting 3rd generation war rules, and they're not.
Right.
You know, that's a big thing. But, you know, the other thing, and just to emphasize your point, to get to one world government, which really is the goal of a lot of people,
Right.
You've got to destroy every single nation state. And the most important nation state is the most powerful one, America. They have to destroy America to reach their goal. That's always been the goal, is to destroy us. You're not going to do it.
Destroy America, destroy religion, destroy the ability to possess property.
Yeah.
The list goes on. You want to know what the aim is, folks? Because it's real easy. The list was given to you a long time ago. Just listen to the song "Imagine" by John Lennon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Sunny Daisy says Presser Jang's been on Patriots Soapbox. Doesn't surprise me. He's been making the rounds in a lot of places. But if you know what the list, if you've studied geopolitics the way we have, and you see him, going through all these different, events and making himself seem smart, it's not what he says that's wrong. It's what he doesn't say. And the stuff he leaves out makes it very clear who his handlers are. This is a CCP tool, without a doubt. And I'll be doing a big series with Colonel Towner coming up, going through the Rockefeller Foundation, and I will actually show in excruciating detail how the Rockefellers are the orchestrators of bringing China into the World Trade Organization, et cetera. And we've got friends out there that are going to suggest something about a sovereign alliance, how President Xi, Putin, and Trump are fighting against the globalists. No, I think Putin's fighting for Russia. I think Trump's fighting for America, and I think Xi is part of the globalist strategy. That's what I think. That's what all the evidence shows. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Hopefully,
and the way to make a dent, the way to make headway, is not to play by the rules. They created the rules. They made the rules, and what our problem is that we follow the rules, and then they pounce us, and we wonder why. This is the reason why Donald J. Trump did so well. He's an outsider that didn't play by the rules, and he's unpredictable, and he's willing to call them out. He's willing to point it. That's the reason why Spencer Pratt is a problem for the Democrats. I mean, and he has absolutely humiliated them. And I mean, he goes from the hills, and by the way, and I think I've mentioned this here before, that was what he was on the hills, kind of the kind of snobby little brat, whatever. That was all a written role. Reality, there's nothing real about reality shows like that, right? And I know this because he's family. He's my uncle's grandson. And my uncle and I talked about Spencer a lot long before this happened. So, but here's the thing. Here's what I'm enjoying about Spencer. I don't even think he knows we're related, by the way. He's my uncle's grandson. But anyway, but here's the thing I enjoy about Spencer Pratt that just cracks me up is he understands the unpredictability. He understands how to get to. He's making videos that people watch. The Democrats have tried to make videos, and they look like idiots. But he's not only making these videos, and they're great productions, they're fun to watch, but he's humiliating them. And they don't know what to do when they're humiliated because they're used to being on the upper hand, having the handover on the handshake, and dictating the terms, especially when it comes to a place like Los Angeles, where they are everywhere in control, and the few people that aren't Democrats are under their control anyway because they've infiltrated them or their plants. And he's getting a lot of attention. He's exposing their underbelly in such a way they're scrambling. They don't know how to deal with him because he's operating the way Trump did. He's not playing by the rules. He's created some rules, and he's thrown the truth out there in such a way they can't argue against it. He's thrown the obvious out there for everybody to see. Everybody has seen it. They're putting two and two. They go, whoa. And because they can't win in the arena of ideas.
Well, the best part,
you saw what happened with the debate. He wiped him out so bad. They don't want any more debates. They don't even want to be on the stage with him. Go ahead.
Yeah, it is the most brilliant political campaign I think I have ever seen, and it's going to be. It is going to be copied. It is now a playbook of how conservatives should campaign in the midterms. Spencer Pratt may just be the one who wins the midterms for the Republicans, and this is not a deeply Republican guy. He's actually just more of a guy who, more of my beliefs fall on the Republican side, so that's what I'm going to run as. He's just a good guy, but it's brilliant what they're doing, and it's because it's backed on the actual truth in real life stuff that people actually care about. You think Angelinos, have a problem with crime? Yeah, it's not cool with the needles on the playground and stuff like that. It's not cool with all the homeless encampments. And then we got people exposing all of the NGOs and home care facilities, all the fraud and everything like that. But here's what else Spencer Pratt's doing. He might be ending Gavin Newsom's political career.
He might be, absolutely, because him and Bass, they're connected at the.
Yeah, and we're getting more and more on the fraud. Speaking of which, of the fraud and stuff like that, J.D. Vance has been on the job for 2 months, being the czar of fighting against fraud.
He's got them running.
We have
how much he's exposed already.
Well, it was all there. I mean, I was part of the corner of the internet, like with Data Republic and other people like that. But they were out there blasting out all this stuff, before the government even came close to being involved. And then that's how Nick Shirley gets involved and makes his video goes viral. Now he's getting death threats, and all he did was expose something that's really bad. And look, I don't know what the percentage of our government is due to fraud, but we obviously have a national debt problem. I don't know it might be worse.
Remember, we've had this discussion before, back in 2007, I think it was. It's right before Obama took office. A friend of mine and I, another constitutionalist, Tim Curlin, he went by Loki online. What we did is we took apart the entire federal budget, or at least what was available to us, and we separated the unconstitutional and the constitutional federal spending. The unconstitutional spending was 85% of the U.S. federal budget. And this is at the tail end of Bush. It's a higher number now. I haven't even wanted to tackle it. 85. When you're operating on an 85% unconstitutional spending, things are going to go wrong. And kudos to Trump. I think he's slowing down the tailspin. I don't know if it can ever be stopped, because you got to realize all of this is redistribution of wealth. I mean, that's the reason why he did the tariffs the way he did. It wasn't just about trade; it was redistribution. It's a global redistribution of wealth program. Take from the United States and give it to everybody else. It's redistribution. It's Marxist. Climate change, same thing. Take from the richer Western nations, send it out to the underdeveloped. It's all redistribution. This is a global Marxist effort, and Trump is battling against that. Now, he won't call it that. He won't say it that. That's what it is. And I think Spencer Pratt may not fully understand what he's undertaking like Trump understands, I think, what he's undertaking. But Spencer Pratt is making another dent into that same game. And remember, Karen Bass, she is an admitted communist. She's got ties to Communist Party. She was I'm trying to remember, what was it, the terrorist attack? What was that attack she was a part of?
Yeah. I'm not going to remember that, but I do know that she spent a lot of time in Cuba being trained as an activist.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And everybody's like, yeah, but it's LA. No Republican win in California or LA. He has risen 12 points in the polls since March. He's, from some polls, he's within 3 points of her.
Going back to the fraud, they created this concept of an NGO, and everyone talks. That's on everyone's tongues. But what does an NGO stand for? It's a non-government organization. The only purpose for it to exist so will do things that the government can't admit that it's doing using government money.
Right.
It is
the early NGOs, if I'm not wrong here, correct me if I am. The early non-GOs were things like Fannie Mae and stuff like that.
Now, Fannie Mae's it's a different type of structure. That's a public-private type institution. It's not an NGO, but they're related, but not the same.
Okay.
Yeah. Long story short, there's a whole lot of NGOs out there, and they're getting
and it's a way to get stuff done that you couldn't do legally as a government entity, but you can, kind of funnel it through that direction. That's basically what an NGO does.
If you're using government money, you're not a non-government organization. You're a government organization. That is just, it's just like a public-private partnership. Yeah. This is the whole thing about crony capitalism in reverse. They shouldn't exist, period. And we got to take a look at a lot of quote-unquote charitable foundations, but that's next on my hit list. I'll be doing a series on that this summer when I go after the Rockefellers. Because I don't know if everybody knows this. The first two charitable foundations were in 1911, and it was the Rockefeller and the Carnegie foundations, and were called a tax-free foundation. Their issue was the estate tax. They didn't want to give away their generational wealth back to the government, so they created, using their little pet politicians, what's called a charitable foundation, where you put, your $1 billion behind a foundation, and it pretends under the guise of charity to do charitable things. In the meantime, the family keeps getting wealthier. You control the education system, etc. And 2 years later, these same people's representatives, same year, these same people's representatives met on Jekyll Island and gave us the Federal Reserve and the income tax. So now our income tax, which was supposed to be 3% and it's temporary, starts funding, everything, the government does. We're paying all this income. Charitable foundations aren't paying a dime, and yet they control our government. This was the major coup of the American system.
Well, and this, you touched on an interesting topic, because the Saxons believed that being able to pass on the wealth from one generation to the next was a good thing, and they had no obstacles for that. And I'm a firm believer that any estate tax, all of that's wrong. That generational wealth should be able to be passed on. But the problem with what the Rockefellers did is not what they wanted; it's how they went about it. I don't think there should be estate taxes. I think that generational wealth is okay to a point. My problem was when government and wealth colludes together, and that's what happened there.
The estate tax has always been a slippery slope for me, because I understand the desire for one, because you do not want single families to accumulate so much wealth that they can own entire governments. That's something.
Well, if there is no collusion, then I don't care how rich they get. But when someone gets rich, that's what inevitably happens. Is that
you
collusion.
get bored, and you say, okay, I can't. I've got all the money in the world now. What do I have to shoot for now? And that's power. And that's exactly what happened with these dynastic families.
Yeah, it's just like these legislators. Oh, run out of necessary laws. What shall we make? Hey, let's make some unnecessary laws.
Yeah. When you've got more money than you can spend in like 10 generations, then you start doing the power grab. And that's what this book, Superclass, is all about. These are the families that have the dynastic wealth.
Right.
And look, every single one of us in every county in America understands that you live on the right side of the tracks versus the wrong side of the tracks, you get treated differently by the police. That's just a fact. When you pull over the mayor's kid, he's not going to jail. That's just a fact. That's human nature. We are a corrupted society based on that. You take that up to the nth level with someone like the Rockefellers and stuff like that. They play by a whole set of totally different set of rules.
Yeah. Well, and that reminds me of the Democrats in California and New York City and places like that. They have created such power that now, what do you do with all that power? Now you start getting stupider and stupider. And eventually those generationally wealthy dynastic wealth can be toppled by the new wealth, but then the new wealth eventually becomes them. And this is just the cycles of history. But when it comes to politics, when you get that kind of power, it's even worse than when you see this power through wealth, because power through politics, sometimes it is assisted by that wealth that's on the outside. It becomes so tyrannical that it almost feels like there's no way out. And this is the reason why I'm enjoying getting back to the other topic, watching what's going on in California between Spencer Pratt and between, Bianco and Hilton versus, and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that the Republicans in these cases are perfect individuals. They're not, but they're not the Democrats. And I'm watching a dynasty, if you want to talk about dynastic wealth, dynasty of political power on the run. And that's what we need in this country. I don't care who has them on the run. Let's get somebody has them on the run, because we need to start toppling these overpowering dynastic political blocks like what we see in California.
Well, that's why I've spent so much time, doing research on things like the CIA, Skull and Bones, Scroll and Key, all the secret societies, because these are the power structures they use. The secret societies, they meet in the dark, smoky rooms, and that's where the decisions are made. It's this is the old British model, which is why we did the show today on the X group or whatever they're called, and these are people that basically think that they've got the ability to make decisions for us. They're smarter. They've got a better idea. Democracy is the last thing on their mind, stuff like that. But you said a word earlier, said it's global Marxism. It's not. It's global Fabian socialism. It's different. They're not going to do the violent revolution.
Well,
They're
when I
going to do
say
the slow.
no,
Yeah.
when I say global Marxism, I'm talking about the general. What you're talking about is the violent. That's what communism became. And yes, that's what Marx taught. It was the violent. When I say Marxism, though, he's the one that really brought together the modern idea of this collectivistic system. I get what you're saying, though. The Fabians are the slow boat to do it. I get that.
That's what's actually being enacted.
And if we want to get technical, this goes back even further. I mean, we can go back to Hegel. We can go back to
Well,
we
did that in a show. We did that in a show. I went
Yeah.
back to Rousseau, Hegel, all of them, and the whole trail.
Yeah.
We've had these conversations.
Well,
but
Rousseau
we did that.
was the father of the French Revolution. The French Revolution was really the first communist revolution in our modern history. But there's been others even going further back.
Yeah, Rousseau doesn't get enough credit for what a dirtbag he was. He needs to be shouted out. He needs to be shouted out more often. I've been all over his case for about 3 weeks, but people need to look up how bad Rousseau is in some of his ideas. And he claimed to have studied John Locke. Well, you didn't learn a damn thing, Rousseau. Like he said,
Well, and the thing is, they can't win an arena of ideas. But all they know is they want the power, so they cheat. They push bad policies and tell you it wasn't. They project. They use identity and partisan politics. They the divide and conquer. Class warfare. This is what they with Trump and sometimes other guys. They throw their opponents off ballots. But the thing is, what's going on is they have pushed so hard, they've actually exposed themselves, and there's a few people willing to shine a spotlight on it, be it Trump, be it Pratt, be it whoever. And I think the voters are beginning to care more about what they see. I think they're recognizing that for the left, none of their accomplishments are in the column of success. Voters are noticing this.
What they do, adding to that, what they do is they rely on emotion to sell ideas.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they can't use reason. And we go back to the tribalist thing like that. You have people, I bought into this emotional thing. I want to hug trees. I want to be good for the nature. Therefore, I've got to be for one world government climate change. No, you don't. They're playing on your emotions.
Now, I'm going to say something that's very controversial. I'm going to say something very controversial right now. They play on your emotions. Mm-hmm. You know how you could tell that that's what they're succeeding at? If you were to remove the entire female vote, females tend to think on emotion typically. I know there's some of you ladies out there that don't let it make your decisions for you, but most women, they operate on feelings, emotions. If you were to remove the entire female vote from the last election, the Republicans won like 46 of the states, including California.
Yeah, that's not controversial at all. I was actually, that's why we make jokes about the 19th Amendment occasionally. I was Colonel Towner Watkins had a Spaces every day at 4:00 Eastern, and I jumped in there in the comments and I mentioned something about maybe I said that on our show today about the 19th Amendment, but no, I'm not saying we should take away women's right to vote. I just wish they'd be a little bit more reasonable about it.
Hey, Sunny Daisy in the chat room's giving me the look button. But
yeah, good vibes.
And that's the thing, and this is, we hear about the Karens, the white liberal women who are leading the woke problem and all of this stuff. This is the people who need to be either convinced or not allowed to vote, or so I don't know, but
you see all these, you see all these YouTube videos of violent black women just going to blows, and just over and over again. I've seen so many of these things going through Twitter and stuff like that, and that's not their nature. This has been bred into them. They've been taught that they are, that they basically the white man has been stepping on their necks, something like that.
Well, so it's a comment, and I'm glad you brought that up because I began with emotion. So that's where the Democrats attack. That's where women fall for. But then also, they've been fed feminism. Even the ones who don't believe in feminism has feminism stuck in their head. I remember when we first moved up here, and my wife tells this story to her friends at breakfast, and you'd have thought that I was the ultimate enemy at first because of what was said. I said to Virginia when we first moved up here, I'm only going to say this once. You're not allowed to work. And it was like, excuse me, was the responses from her friends before they heard the whole thing. How dare a man dictate to a woman whether or not she can Well, and it was the feminism in them, but and they jumped before they even heard the context. The context was, I've been sharing you with a job our entire marriage. I'm being selfish. I want you all to myself. And we can do this. I want to get to know my wife. I've been married to her for over 40 years, and I'm just now getting to know her. And so once that got explained, it's like, oh, but see that, but I think that's a great example of what has happened with women in America with the feminism is it's got this. You jump to the worst conclusion. Oh, men, they want to control us. Want me barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen, and that's not true. But that's what's been bred into women. And so you take the emotion, you take that, you combine it, and the Democrats have got a lot of these women fooled because of that.
Yeah.
That's a large part of it.
This whole idea that everybody needs to go to college is going to disappear based on technology because you can learn more on the internet without being $100,000 in debt. That's going to change a lot of that stuff like that. And, hopefully people start learning the right things on the internet, but that's
I know more about history, politics, and the Constitution than anybody I've ever met with a political science degree or a history degree. And I don't have the degree. Now, that said, I'm not putting down I was talking to someone earlier today, gave my card, by the way. And it's like, I'm not putting down having the alphabet soup after your name. This, you got this and this and this, and this is a PhD and this HD and that, whatever, and blah, 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 blah. That's a wonderful thing. You earned it. You were disciplined enough to go through it and all that. But it doesn't necessarily mean you know what you're doing.
I am a person who has a lot of those letters. I am overeducated, and I've said for years, I learned more bartending than I ever did in college. No, you learn your people skills. You talk to interesting people. You learn about the world.
Where I get upset is when people have all that alphabet soup and then they're smug about it. That's where I have my problem. So one last story, and then we're going to say adios because you've been with us quite a while. We're coming up to the end of the show in about 3 minutes. Real quick story. So I'm invited on a show on 590 AM, which is The Answer in Riverside, California. I know the host, and Ed has me on, and he just tells me, hey, I want to have you on the show. I want you to talk about such and such topic. And it was about natural born citizen. And what I didn't know is he had invited a constitutional lawyer and a constitutional professor on the program to debate me who disagreed with me on the subject of natural born citizen. I get on that program. Within 5 minutes, the constitutional lawyer shut his mouth. He can't even compete. Me and the constitutional professor from University of Redlands, we're going at it, man. And I basically shut him up like 2 or 3 times. In the parking lot afterwards, and this is where the smugness kind of gets slapped in the face. This is the reason I like to tell the story. And I'm walking to my car in the parking lot. He catches up. He's, Mr. Gibbs. I said, yes, sir. And he says, I've never come across anybody who knows as much history and Constitution together like you. I'm just curious, where did you get your master's degree? And I turned to him and I said, I got about 32 units from Mount San Jacinto Junior College, but thanks for the compliment. And then got in my car. If he had been a cartoon character, his jaw would have hit the ground. The look on his face was hilarious, but it was the smugness of that alphabet soup. He couldn't believe that someone could know what I knew without having the alphabet soup. Once again, I'm not putting down the alphabet soup, but I want you to recognize that a didactic learner like myself, is that we're out there. And sometimes that's when you learn the most. It's you know what? I can't put together engines. I don't do electricity and plumbing very, very well. But you know when I learned it most? Not school, trying to do it. Sometimes that's what it takes.
I totally agree. One of my highlights of my professional career was sitting across the table with 5 Ivy League MBAs from Goldman Sachs and beating the pants off them. And that was that was my big feather in my cap back in the day. And you can learn more in the real world. You most certainly can. This was fun. This was free flow. I totally disrupted your program.
And it was great. No.
Yes,
I would rather have. Now, Virginia didn't get a word edgewise. With 30 seconds, do you have anything to say?
I think it was good.
Think it was good? You enjoyed having War Hamster?
It was a good conversation.
You're going to have to visit every once in a while.
It was a good conversation.
Every once in a while.
Every once in a while. All right. United we stand. Combined we kick butt. God bless America, my friends. God bless you. Wasn't this fun? DouglasVGibbs.com. If it's like, Doug, man, I wish I knew what you're doing. DouglasVGibbs.com. Go to the blog. I write about this stuff all the time, every day. I would love for you to visit the site, DouglasVGibbs.com. Hit the join link and you can become a $9 a month member. And And if you want to get emails from me, I've got the email thing fixed.
Finally.
DouglasVGibbs.com. Bottom of the page, fill it out. You will be on my email list. We have 1,000 people on the email list. Let's make it 2,000.
There you go.
Join the email list. I'll send out emails about whenever I have shows coming up, and every once in a while, let you know what articles I've been putting out. Visit DouglasVGibbs.com every day. Real quick, War Hamster, plug yourself before Magamo comes on.
Get me on Rumble. Just look for War Hamster. There's a couple different channels of it. Look for the bigger one. And on X, it's War_Hamster1776. I'm trying to be somewhat active on there, and I've been doing a better job this year. And I'm
trying to
get
drag
Mr.
me into getting into social media better too.
Damn straight.
All right, everybody. It's been a pleasure being with you. Magamo, you're here. Glad you're here. How you feeling? Are you healthy?
I'm okay. We have to break that habit of you acting completely surprised that I'm here.
Well, because you miss every once in a while, and I miss you. You know,
I
I'm
do.
excited that you're here.
I'm sure your heart bleeds for me when I'm not here.
It does, actually. It does. But I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that you have the show that you have. We've warmed up the audience for the pro. So we got you all warmed up. The pro is here now. We can step aside and let the pro take over.
Okay, the pro, yeah. All right. Well, you guys enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. And War Hamster, thank you for spending the time with me. Audience, you're awesome. We'll see you next time. We're out of here.
Yes,
Thank you,
welcome to New England, War Hamster.
Oh, thank you so much. It's I'm still not quite loving the weather, but we'll deal with it.
You ain't gonna ever love it, but you might get used to it. You're up north, so you get hammered. So,
And we did this this year, and I actually fractured my hip on Thanksgiving, so it was a miserable winter for here. So,
well, let's
all-
try. Give it another year.
have a great show. Cheers, everyone.
Okay. Have a good
All
one.
right. We'll see y'all later. Bye-bye now.
All right. Bye, guys. Hello.